So, welcome to today's broadcast for VRS and our version of the Warrior Wallet. As I have Annie Belisari and Kevin Lawyer. Annie Belisari is from HER Realtors. Kevin Lawyer is from Revolution Mortgage. And today we're going to talk about, buying a house, getting a mortgage, some of the things that people have seen out there that might be true, might not be true, some of the pitfalls that people are showing out there. And um, what I'd like to do is, have you guys as usual talk about what you do because I'm not that important. But Annie, as tell about you work for HER Realtors. Talk a little bit about what you do, and then Kevin talk more about what you do.
Sure. Well, good afternoon, everyone. I am a realtor, a full-time realtor, which is very important when you're choosing a realtor to make sure that they're in the know, that they're working full-time. A lot of realtors are part-time, and in this market, you really want somebody on the in the know and know exactly how the market's going, and they're in the market every day. That's me. I work for HER, which is the largest brokerage in Ohio, and I work out of Powell, but I go pretty much all over Central Ohio. So yeah, reach out to me with any questions. But I really, from start to finish, go through the process of finding a house or selling a house. I'm hands-on in all stages. So that's one thing that I definitely offer to my clients. I mean, even from helping clean out their basements, decluttering their house when I'm listing it, with buyers, working closely with a lender, just, Kevin and I, but always remember that if you're looking for a realtor, you want somebody full-time who is going to give you the support that you need. So
Now,
that's me.
and explain that for people that are there's a lot of people that work part-time and the reason this is important is a lot of people that work for full-time are going into the office every day.
Yep.
They are catching up on new trends with trends, and somebody that's part-time might be an agent, but during the day they might be a shoe salesman like Al Bundy, and they're not getting well. I don't want to bag on professions, but the reason is that you're in the office, you're seeing other realtors, you're seeing what the trends are, you're seeing what people are what people are buying, and if a property or a listing comes up, you're more hands-on because somebody is going to be able to see that. Kevin, talk a little bit more about what you're doing about Revolution Mortgage and how they a little bit about what your mortgage firm specializes in, and some of the things that you've heard out there, like for example, you've got to have a 750 credit score to go buy a house today. Something that's kind of crazy that way.
Oh yeah, absolutely. So once again, Kevin Lauer, Revolution Mortgage. Thanks for having me on here, guys. Appreciate everybody's service, of course. Yeah, we do a lot of different loans here at Revolution, but we do have a very, very good VA loan, and there are lots of things, as George mentioned, that are just kind of myths. Everybody's got a friend that knows someone that did this, and it's kind of just want to stop that conversation from even happening, because just because you know somebody that did something doesn't mean it's true, and they might not know what they're talking about. So you definitely want to talk to someone that's doing a lot of VA loans, just so you get the right information and not the wrong information. I can't tell you how many people I've had over the years where, oh, I'll call you next week, I'll call you next month or whatever, and they never take the time to have the initial conversation with me. And they might be waiting because, just like George said there, they think you need to have a 750 credit score. And, that's just not the case at all. We can typically do a VA loan as long as you're at a 600 credit score. Obviously, the higher, the better. The main thing that the credit score is going to impact there usually is interest rate. That's pretty much the main thing, and qualification purposes. So as long as you are at the 600, we're usually going to be okay there on that. If you can get up higher, then it's just going to make things easier, obviously. But yeah, there's a lot of bad information with people thinking that you need perfect credit. I have people that do applications with me all the time, and we'll start out where they might have a 520 or a 550 credit score. And there's a lot of things that I can do to get credit score up quickly. So everybody is absolutely unique when it comes to credit. So there's not
Right.
a single plan. Like just because this guy, hey, we paid down some debts on a credit card, now he's got a perfect score. Great. But just because you have debts on a credit card doesn't mean that if we do that on you, it's going to be the exact same plan. So some people, they like to buy everything with cash. They might not have credit at all. So that's not necessarily a bad thing. A lot of times that is actually a really good thing, and it's easier to fix. So somebody that just hasn't been utilizing credit, maybe they were just raised where if you want something, you save up the money, you pay cash, and that way you don't ever owe anybody any money. So if you don't have any credit on your report at all, then we can get a score to populate pretty quickly. What's harder to fix is when people are not using credit responsibly and they've got lots of late payments, or maybe they couldn't afford a payment on a car and that ended up getting repossessed. There's all kinds of different scenarios, but everything is able to be fixed. And some people it could be 2 weeks. Other people, I've had somebody that I closed recently. I've been talking to for 2 years because they went through a bankruptcy, and we stayed in communication, talked every couple of months, and they followed the plan that I gave them, and they just closed on a house. So everybody's unique. It's just different, but I don't want people to be afraid of credit necessarily. It is a little confusing on how things work. I would not encourage people to work with a lot of these credit repair companies. There's one company that I trust, and only one, and that's because credit repair is a business, guys, and these people will put you on a plan where they're going to collect $20, $50 a month from you, right? You think they want to fix your credit really quickly? No, they want to keep collecting that $20, $50 from you every month. And they will literally, so you've got 3 credit bureaus. They'll literally go after one collection on one credit bureau, right? So they might do that for the first month, so it looks like they're doing something for you. Then the next month, they'll go after the next bureau. So that's one collection on 3 different bureaus that they could possibly waste 3 months of your time going after. And it's they just want to really drag it out. It's terrible. And the other thing to avoid, there's these not collection companies. There's these kind of also credit repair companies. What they'll do is kind of consolidate your debt for you, for people that have a lot of stuff that's outstanding. And these are the worst places because they sell you on this, making it sound pretty, where you're going to consolidate stuff and only make one payment to get it all paid off. So the way they do that is purposely make you late and behind on every single one of your bills. So that way, what they're able to do is settle with those companies for less money. But by doing that, you have absolutely trashed your credit. So they're purposely making you late so that way they can settle for less money. Therefore, that company you're paying gets out of the debt for less money, and that's where they make their profits. But in order to do that, if you owe a company $500 and you're a month behind on it, they're probably not going to want to settle for anything. You get 3 months behind on that $500, all of a sudden now 300 sounds good, and they're willing to take that because you're 3 months behind. So that's the strategy on some of those places, and they're the absolute worst. I have a woman that came to me about 2 weeks ago, and unfortunately she did that before I talked to her, and she makes really good money. And she's got a $700,000 house she wants to refi, and I can't do anything on it right now because her credit is trashed because a friend told her to go talk to this company, and she's behind on every single bill. And so now they're willing to settle for less money. But at this point, it's going to be a solid 6 months before I can do anything. She's also going through a divorce and all this stuff. So they just, once again, bad advice from somebody that thinks they know something, and just completely ruin this woman's setup for a solid 6 months.
And one of the things that, excuse me, that Annie brought up, and on another time that we were talking, when you start looking for a house, it's not, people expect, some people, not all, I mean, I'm just, but people can expect you think you're going to be ready to find a house in 60, 90 days. And that's not necessarily the case. It might take you 6 months to find a house. Mm-hmm. And one of the things that Annie brought up, which is, I think, a very sound advice that people are listening, go talk to a realtor, even if you're not ready to buy a house today, and you're saying, well, in the springtime, I think, my son or daughter graduated from high school, we want to move. We're having a baby next year. Something that is, your life's going to change. For example, you're getting divorced, or
Yeah, that's very important. It's even more important, starting with the realtor is great, but it's more important even from the lending side.
Right.
So houses are going so quickly, if someone calls Annie now and they're saying, hey, I want something in 6 months, it's almost near impossible to even start predicting what's going to be out there. But if I have somebody come to me and say they want to buy in 6 months and they say, hey, I want to wait to do the application, that's about the worst thing you can do. So if 6 months down the road goes and then we start that application and they have stuff on their credit that would have taken me 6 months to fix, I mean, that just makes me feel terrible that I couldn't convince them to do it. And, people are afraid of the credit pool and all that. Tell you what, guys, credit is there to be pulled and used. It's not going to hurt your score to have a lender pull your credit and look.
Right. And that's another thing that's something that people are having,
people are terrified of that. And, people that come to me, I can guarantee you when you're done with me, your credit's going to be higher than when you came to me. That's pretty much every single time. Unless your score is above a 740, 760. I mean, at that point, it really doesn't help much to get your score any higher. But, if you're coming to me and there's anything I can do to get you in a better spot financially overall, I'm going to help you with that. And so that's why it's important, like you said, to start sooner, because there's things that you can fix. And then, how dumb do you feel if you would have done that 6 months ago and now we got to wait 6 months because you were afraid to get your credit pulled? It's just not smart to wait.
And here's another thing that, to bring up that, this is another thing that, Annie has brought up on another thread, was that sometimes if you're going to go sell your house, it's going to take you 3 to 4 months to stage it. You're going to have to get some of the clutter out. You're going to have to, if you've got, some of the, you've got, the 1988, 1990, stuff in the basement. You've got all stuff, that, and that detracts buyers. And so there are people, there are companies out there that they hire just to go in and stage a home because, people want to look at see how a house is. So if you're going to put your house on the market, you're not going to contact a seller, a realtor on Monday and put it on Wednesday. You've got to go through, some of the, the processes. And number two is that you got to make sure you know what you want out of the house. I mean, there are people that will, that are emotionally attached to a property and they're asking too much and the market isn't going to bear that. And everybody thinks, well, this is a seller's market. Not necessarily. There are some houses, if you're in, for example, in New Albany, you might pay premium in Dublin or Scioto Reserve. But for the most part, you've got to price it accordingly. And if that's the case, that takes a little bit of time. So if you are going to sell, go look, talk to a realtor, say, this is what my plan is, and they can help you craft a plan. And, that's why, you want a professional seller.
Yeah. I think two things going back to what Kevin was saying. I think that the sooner you start with a lender and a realtor, the better. I have people that they keep saying, oh, I'm not buying for a year. I'm not buying for 2 years. I'm not selling for a year. I'm not selling for 2 years. You would be shocked at how fast that time comes. And if we don't talk regularly, I do my check-ins. If it's something, that's not selling or buying for, 2 years or whatever, I check in about every 3 months. Just say, hey, here are some tips. What are you thinking? Has anything changed? And it's amazing how many times things change and they don't let you know. And so then it's like, okay, wait a minute. We have to alter our plan a little bit. I also don't want people to feel like they're wasting my time if they're not buying for a couple more years or they're still looking. It is all part of the process. And I think the more education you have prior to, because you're not just going to pick up the phone and call me and say, I want to list my house today. And that's not how it works. And so on the buying side too, you've got to pre-qualify with the lender. We have to do all those things. And I think that's one of the biggest misconceptions right now is that You wait to call on us professionals, real estate agents also, the minute you're ready to go buy a house. And that's just not how it works. And I don't want anybody to think, I mean, it's not wasting my time. I send you houses. We might go see a few. I text you. Like, it's part of my job. It's part of what I do. So that's one of the things that I think people are very timid about, is that they wait until their feet are to the fire and they need to buy or sell, and then they're frustrated because there's so many things to do before you can actually buy or sell. Especially on the seller side, I sit down with them and we go through a plan, and usually I'll do like a week by week plan with a target date, and I break it down, and every week or day I give one or two tasks. We don't want people to be overwhelmed. That's the thing in this industry, buying or selling, that makes people run away the most or get upset. So I try to break it down into small tasks, especially even when we're buying. I don't want you to go look at 13 houses in one day, because then you're overwhelmed and you're upset. So I try to educate and break everything down, so that a lot of those misconceptions out there of how overwhelming buying and selling a house is, you don't walk away from this process. If you work with me, you walk away from this process feeling that way. So
Right. And here's one of the other things that too that I've seen happen is people get frustrated with the process because they miss a step,
for
and they're
sure.
like, and it doesn't matter what step that they miss. I mean,
Yeah.
if they, like something as simple as, you know, making sure you don't have a second mortgage. I mean, things that, I mean, anything like that, saying that, you've got to clean up the, maybe have a maid service come in and clean, do the things that, make your house,
Yeah.
more, that have a little bit more curb
And
appeal.
and it's always good to talk to us professionals, because I'll have a lot of people say, I'm working on my house. I'm working on my house. Well, they think they need to redo a bathroom, whereas I'm
Right.
like, no, 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 no. That doesn't matter. We're going to do X, Y, and Z that will cost you less, but this is the trend of the market right now. So that's
Right.
why I can save a lot of time and money by having these, you know, it just,
People do updates, and it's not
yeah.
necessarily something a buyer is going to want. They waste all that money, and it's
Yep.
it's really hard to convince a seller not to do that stuff.
Yeah.
They're just adamant about it.
Right. And
It's a
people,
waste of money.
there's also things that people get for their house thinking it's going to add value,
Yeah.
and it doesn't. If
Yeah.
you're, for example, people get an in-ground pool,
Ugh.
that dollar for dollar, that doesn't add value, return on investment. A
Yeah.
fireplace does not add return on investment. And this is from somebody. I used to install fireplaces for
Yeah.
people and build them, and I'm like, that's not always going to get a return on it, because there's a lot of maintenance on it.
Yeah. And
You know,
pools, things like that, people can have such an opinion about strongly,
Yeah.
one way or the other. So, yeah.
right.
Yes. So I think that's the biggest thing, is that I think, and Kevin and I have talked about this, is just trying to keep people from getting discouraged. Don't listen to your friends. I think Kevin and I both harp on that a lot. You
Yeah.
can't listen to your friends and your family. I guess our advice is listen to the professionals. Let us handle it. This is what we do day in and day out. We work
Right.
as a team. We get you. We're here to work for you guys. So I guess that's our biggest thing, is start the process early. Don't listen to all the rumors out there.
Especially when you've got somebody that you're listening to mom or dad, and they bought a house 10 years ago.
Yeah.
It's a completely different world now. I mean,
Mhm.
this market's nothing like anyone's ever seen. This is the first time that a market's been this hot, and home values have gone up so fast. And you list a property and it's gone 12 hours later. I mean,
Yeah.
it's no one's really experienced this. We're experiencing this for the first time right now. And
Yeah.
it's really hard for
More so, more so than in
process
2000,
previously.
more so than the early, the 2000s. And then one of the other things that people are doing now, which, they're buying houses just to turn them into an Airbnb,
Wow.
and that is, so people are looking at the home return, and this is a prime example too. I want to bring this up. People also consider a home as an asset when it's not. It's a liability. if you work from home, it can become an asset, but if it not, it's not. And one of the things that people think about is that there's a guy that comes out, he's a financial advisor. Now, Dave Ramsey has agreed with this. There's other people, and people are both sides. Sometimes it's cheaper for you to rent than it is to own. And, there are people out there that, rent is a fixed cost, especially if you don't want to, because the average cost of real estate historically is appreciated 3.2%. That is what, historically is done. But if you're not getting, if you are, temporary, you just want to move into a place and move out, for some people, renting might be an option. But one of the things that you always look at is what is the total cost going to be of a house, because you're going to have, repair costs, maintenance costs, somebody to, lawnmower, yard service. If the furnace breaks, you're responsible for it. Hot water tank, you're responsible for it. And that's things that you've got to also take a look. And the one thing that concerns me that I've seen is that with cheap money, and Kevin has brought this up, you have some unsophisticated buyers buying more home than that they would normally be accustomed to. And as a result, they might not have, some of the, the assets or, the cash flow to pay for, for some of the maintenance. So they get into where they should be in a $300,000 home, they get into a $450,000 home, and that adds a lot of more upkeep. And that's something that people don't, talk about either.
Yeah, absolutely.
Absolutely. Yeah. To your point though, for the renters versus the buyers, I think the trend that I see, yes, it is a good fix for some people. If they're needing to work on their credit, with Kevin pulling that up, but the other problem is I'm seeing in this hot market, people are selling out from under their renters. So that's a concern. I've seen that a lot lately. And if you don't have that guarantee in your lease, they'll sell you, and as soon as your lease is up, you could be out. So it's always good to think about that in this market, just because it's been sad for some people that I've seen. They have to be displaced because that the owner's saying, hey, I can sell this thing for much more. So but
Yeah.
Well, and I think I think one of the other things is, and I could be wrong, but I used to be I used to be a financial advisor, and I had a Series 6, 63, and 7. I think we're going to be in it for a correction next year, and that correction is going to hit a lot of people, and it's not going to be clean. It is not going to be pretty, and a lot of people that were like doing that YOLO dance are going to be like, oh, this is, they're, and I think that the problem is that people, for every high there's a low, and people are, with inflation, and this is something that there's a book called The Millionaire Next Door, and it is it is absolutely one of the best books. If you're out there and you want to read a really good book, read it. It talks about, millionaires don't always live in these, in the rich neighborhoods you think they do. There's a lot of them that live in, in neighborhoods that are, you would not think it, like Berwick. There's a lot of people, in Columbus, it's like they're let's say $300,000, $350,000 homes. One of the things which is going on today is, and I will say this because the report came out about Cyber Monday. Cyber Monday sales for the first time since 2005, when Cyber Monday was coined, were down 1.4%. Now that sounds like a lot, but what people did is the overall spending in November was up 11% because people had spaced out their buying. Now, what does that mean to the home market? Well, are people going to adjust for that? Saying, well, I'm going to stay in this house, or I don't want to overpay for a house, because there are people that are paid, that you go into a bidding war, people will buy or pay more for a house than it's what it's worth. Then you've got to make that up either in, that you think that the value of your home is going to go up, that the value of your home is going to go, if you buy a home, even let's say 100, let's use 100,000 because it's around now. You're going to have to pay 6% for Andy to come in and sell it. So, if you paid 100 and now it's only, you got to pay the 6%, it's 94,000. Well, it's got to appreciate to pay, for the closing costs. Well, if the seller's paying them, but for the commission, the real estate commission, and the, your real estate agent closing costs and whatever. So from 100, it's got to go to what, 108, something like that. I mean, and that's, people don't always take that into consideration.
One thing I do with all of my sellers is I sit down and we do a net sheet. We go through all of everything that could possibly be a cost. And so they know exactly, well, not exactly due to the dollar amount, but pretty much if we sell it for this, you're going to pay these fees and you're going to make this. And it goes back to, we just have to know what to expect. That's just, that's just the expectation.
Touch on that a little bit more for a second. How many people that have you done that with that have you've done that net sheet and were surprised by where some of the proceeds go?
Oh, every one of them. Every one of them. It's crazy. And the ones that never really paid attention to it, even though we do it, they get to closing table and they see, wait, what?
They're still surprised.
Yeah, they're still surprised. Yeah. And it's like, do you remember that first meeting where we said, this is what you pay? And it's just crazy that you don't realize all that goes into it. And so every time, sometimes people will remember, but I would say 50-50, they get to closing table and they're still shocked. And
where'd all that money go?
Yeah, it surprises me. And that's the other thing why, some realtors won't go above and beyond like I do. And I know, I'm being paid for this. So that's why I always say I'm here every step of the way. That's what I'm being paid for. A lot of people think, oh, it's so easy. Well, if you see all the work that we put into, getting a house ready to sell, we earn our percentage. So, yeah.
Yeah. And I think also too is in this marketplace, a couple of the weird things I've seen, people have bought houses on cryptocurrency. They bought houses on, with all sorts of, different money models. And I think that that we live in strange new times. This is not the mortgages of the 60s and the 70s. By the way, I had to look something up. Do you know where this is just a trivia. Do you know where the first mortgage in America was? What year and what city?
No.
1760, St. Louis, Missouri.
Really?
Yep. That was the first mortgage in America. And because I was looking at that with Kevin, I mean, I was like, historically, did we have mortgages on houses? And I thought, that was a 18th century thing that, people started doing that. But no, the first mortgage in America was in 1760 in St. Louis, Missouri. And yeah. And so it's been, mortgages have been around for a long time. And actually older than the United States, if you think about it. But I think, the thing that, we start, closing up, but the one thing is that you need to have a plan. And I think that people are not, the two things I suggest, go talk to a person like Kevin, go talk. If you're planning on selling a home, and also, when you're selling a home too, talk to your mortgage broker too, because you're going to have to, are you going to go buy another home? Be ready for that too, as well. And there, because what happens if, I mean, I know that this is, this doesn't always happen, but it has happened what happens if you have to carry 2 mortgages because, you know, you're going to go buy a house and, you know, talk about that. Talk about, you know, do you, to your real estate agent, you know, 3 months, you know, 3-4 months before you even think about doing that, because that's going to be a plan, because that way, you know, what the market is going to dictate, where the, you know, what are some of the pitfalls, and you got to have a check sheet, because it's not like I want to sell on Monday, you know, you get a decision you want to sell, then Tuesday, Wednesday, you're already, you know, it's going to be on the marketplace. That's not that easy.
Yeah.
And also, you know, take the time, you know, to make sure that you have a competent agent, you know, because, you know, I mean, I don't know if you mentioned this or not, but how many real estate agents were there in Ohio or Columbus?
In Central Ohio, there's almost 10,000.
Yeah.
It just keeps going up. I mean, it's crazy,
there's
the number.
I saw that in a stat on Forbes, that there are more in just about every city. For every listing, there's like 1,200 listings in Columbus of available homes, but there's like 9 real estate agents or 8 real estate agents for every home listed.
Right.
Yeah, I mean, most of them aren't really doing any business. A lot of people get it because, you know, as Annie was saying earlier, you know, it's somebody that's doing this full time. It's really a lot of work, and a lot of people just really underestimate and don't appreciate the work that does go into it. And everyone wants to think that they can go get their real estate license and then drive around in their Mercedes and show pretty houses and like it's a big game or something. And, you know, that's just not it. And then when they realize it's work, they never do anything with the license. And that's why there's so many people out there that have them. But there's really not that many people that are actually productive agents compared to the 10,000s that are licensed. So
yeah, I will say I agree with that. I mean, most of the deals I do with the same repeat people over and over. Like, you know, if I'm listing a house, they have a buyer. There's a core group that you see really working the market, and, you know, we co-op on all these deals. And then once in a while you'll hear of somebody that you're like, who are you? So there's a lot of us, but only a core group of us are really, really in the market, in the know. So
yeah, out of that 10,000 in Central Ohio, there's maybe, I don't know, 400 that are doing a lot of business. So it's really interesting to look at that.
So any final thoughts? You know, thank you again for a great broadcast. Thank you for some absolutely awesome.
Yeah, I love doing this.
Any final thoughts?
I mean, nope. Just if you have any real estate needs in the next year or two, reach out.
Absolutely. Yeah.
And for those of you listening, Annie works for HER in Ohio, but she has the network of HER Realtor, so she can help you all over the United States and put you in contact with one.
Yep.
Kevin can do business in every state except for the state of New York, correct?
Yeah, New York's a tough one. So we're not licensed in New York. You got to have brick and mortar there, and it's not an easy process to be licensed there. So
yeah, and I don't, with people leaving New York, I think that's not a you know, people aren't buying and rushing to go to New York, and people aren't rushing to go to California either. So with that, thank you guys for listening to VRS, and we're about to sign off. So I appreciate again you guys coming on, and for you guys listening, I hope this was informative.